I opened my front door to find my son standing there with suitcases. I had not seen Tyler in 12 years. Not since he cut me off completely after I refused to co-sign a $200,000 loan for his restaurant venture. Now here he was, his wife Crystal beside him, both looking at my modest ranch house like they owned it. Tyler did not ask to come in. He simply said, as if the years of silence meant nothing, as if the pain he caused had never happened. "We are moving in. I heard about your money, and as your son, I am entitled to some of this." I stood frozen in my doorway, unable to process what was happening. Tyler pushed past me without waiting for an invitation, rolling his suitcase across my clean floors. Crystal followed, her eyes already scanning my living room, evaluating my furniture like she was planning renovations. "Nice place, Daisy," Crystal said, not even calling me Mom or Mrs. Walsh, just my first name, like we were strangers meeting at a bus stop. My mind was racing backward through time. 12 years ago, Tyler had been 32 years old, married to his first wife, Amanda. They had come to my apartment one evening, both dressed nicely, and I thought maybe they wanted to share good news. Instead, Tyler had laid out plans for a franchise restaurant, complete with glossy brochures and financial projections. He needed me to co-sign a loan for $200,000. I had been working double shifts as a hospital nurse, barely making $60,000 a year. My husband Richard had died from cancer just 2 years before that visit. I was still drowning in medical bills, still wearing my grief like a heavy coat I could not take off. I had a small amount in retirement savings, maybe $40,000, and it was all I had to show for 30 years of work. I explained all of this to Tyler. I told him I wanted to help, but I could not risk everything I had. If the restaurant failed, I would lose my home, my retirement, my security. I was 53 years old then, with no safety net. Tyler's face had transformed that night. The smile vanished, replaced by something cold and hard. "You are being selfish," he said. "You have never supported me, never believed in me." Amanda had joined in, her voice shrill. "What kind of mother refuses to help her own son? You are supposed to sacrifice for your children." I tried to explain again, tried to make them understand. But Tyler stood up, threw the brochures on my coffee table, and said words that echoed in my head for 12 years. "Do not bother calling. You are dead to me." The door had slammed so hard that my framed photos rattled on the walls. Now, standing in my living room, Tyler walked around like he was appraising real estate. He ran his hand along my couch, looked out my windows at the small backyard. "This place is worth at least $400,000 in this market," he said casually. "Maybe more." Crystal opened my refrigerator without asking. "We will need to stock better food," she announced. I found my voice finally. "How did you even find out where I live? How did you know I had moved?" Tyler turned to me with a smile that did not reach his eyes. "Mom, you are not as invisible as you think." He pulled out his phone and started swiping through screenshots, property records with my name, bank statements with partial account numbers visible, a credit report. I felt violated, exposed. "I had someone look into your finances," Tyler said matter-of-factly. "When Aunt Susan mentioned you had come into some money, I figured I should check it out." My hands started shaking. Someone had been investigating me. Tyler had paid someone to dig into my private life. He walked to my kitchen table and pulled a folded document from his jacket pocket. He spread it out on the table, smoothing the creases. At the top, in Tyler's handwriting, it said, "Family Reconciliation Agreement." "What is this?" I whispered. "Just read it, Mom." I picked up the paper. The words blurred at first, but then came into sharp focus. The document stated that I would immediately transfer $1,200,000 to Tyler, that I would allow him and Crystal to live in my home rent-free for as long as they wanted, that I would add Tyler as a joint owner on my bank accounts. At the bottom was a line for my signature. "Just sign it," Tyler said. "It is only fair. You owe me this after abandoning me." Abandoning him. The word hit like a slap. I had worked 3 jobs after Richard died to keep food on the table. I had sewn Tyler's Halloween costumes by hand because we could not afford store-bought ones. I had attended every school event, every parent-teacher conference, every baseball game where he sat on the bench. I had loved him with everything I had, but I had said no to that loan. And in Tyler's world, that was abandonment. Crystal started opening my cabinets, pulling out dishes and examining them. "These are old," she said. "We will need new everything." I looked at the document in my hands, then at my son's expectant face. Something inside me, some small voice of self-preservation, whispered, "This is wrong. I need time to think about this," I said quietly. Tyler's jaw tightened. "Time to think? Mom, I am your son. This should not require thinking." But I held firm, surprising myself. "I need time." He stared at me for a long moment, then shrugged. "Fine. We will give you a few days. But we are staying here while you decide." "What?" "We already gave up our apartment," Crystal said sweetly. "We have nowhere else to go." That night, I lay in my bed listening to Tyler and Crystal moving around in my guest room. They were laughing about something, and the sound made me feel like a stranger in my own home. I had worked so hard for my money. After Richard died, I had taken every extra shift at the hospital. I worked as a consultant for medical equipment companies on weekends. I saved every penny, invested carefully in index funds. 5 years ago, I sold a small rental property Richard had left me, and that money, combined with my savings, had grown to $2,400,000. I had planned to donate some to cancer research in Richard's name. I wanted to travel, see the places Richard and I had always talked about. I wanted security in my old age, knowing I would not be a burden to anyone. But now my son was in the next room, making plans for my money like it was already his. I did not sleep that night. 3 days passed. 3 days of Tyler and Crystal taking over my home and my life. Crystal rearranged my kitchen on the second day, throwing out food she called unhealthy. My favorite crackers, gone. The cookies Margaret had baked for me, tossed in the trash. She moved my dishes around so I could not find anything. Tyler used my computer without asking, researching property values and investment strategies. When I walked past, he did not even minimize the screen. He was looking at vacation homes in Florida. They ordered takeout constantly. Expensive meals from restaurants I had never heard of. Chinese food that cost $80. Steaks delivered from a premium service. Every time, they expected me to pay. When I hesitated, Tyler would say, "Come on, Mom, you can afford it." Crystal made comments constantly. "When we own this place, we will knock down this wall and open up the space. This carpet is hideous. Hardwood would be better. We should get a pool installed in the backyard. When we own this place." Every morning, Tyler asked the same question. "Have you thought about the agreement?" I called Margaret on the third day, speaking quietly from my bedroom with the door closed. Margaret had been my best friend for 20 years, since we worked together at the hospital. "Daisy, this is financial abuse," Margaret said, her voice sharp with concern. "You need to call the police." "He is my son," I said, the words automatic. "He is a grown man demanding your life savings. That is not a son. That is a criminal." But I could not shake the guilt. Was I being selfish? Should a mother give everything to her child? I kept thinking about that loan 12 years ago, wondering if I should have said yes, wondering if I had broken something in Tyler that could never be fixed. That evening, Tyler sat me down at the kitchen table again. The agreement was there, waiting. "Mom, let me tell you about my childhood," he said, his voice soft and sad. My heart clenched. Was he going to apologize? Was he going to acknowledge the years of silence? "Do you remember when I needed braces?" he asked. "Of course. I worked overtime for 6 months to pay for them. But you made such a big deal about the cost. You made me feel guilty for needing them." That was not true. I had never made him feel guilty. I had been proud to provide them for him. And remember when I wanted to go to that expensive college? "Tyler, you went. You dropped out after 1 semester to travel with your friends. Because you made me feel like I was a burden. You were always working, never home. I was working to pay for that college. Crystal chimed in, her voice dripping with fake sympathy. Tyler has told me how hard his childhood was. My parents gave me everything. I cannot imagine having a mother who held money over her child's head. I felt like I was drowning. Was this true? Had I damaged my son without realizing it? Then Tyler dropped his next bomb. Crystal clutched her stomach dramatically and said, I am pregnant. 10 weeks. My breath caught. A grandchild. The word filled my mind with images of tiny hands, soft baby hair. A chance to be part of a family again. Tyler's eyes lit up like he had won something. You are going to be a grandmother, Mom. I should have felt joy. Instead, I felt manipulation. Of course, Tyler continued. We need financial stability to raise a child. We cannot bring a baby into uncertainty. If you cannot support your own grandchild, then I guess we know where we stand. Crystal added. My parents are giving us money for the nursery. They are buying us a car seat and a stroller. They are helping. Why would you not help? The pressure was crushing me. A baby. A grandchild I might never meet if I said no. I already told Aunt Susan and Cousin Rachel about the situation, Tyler said casually. They cannot believe you are hoarding all this money while your son struggles to prepare for a child. My phone had been buzzing all day. Missed calls from relatives I had not spoken to in years. Text messages asking why I would not help Tyler. Messages saying family should come first. Tyler had been spreading his version of events, painting me as a greedy old woman clinging to money while her son suffered. I felt the walls closing in. I need to think, I said again. Tyler's face hardened. You keep saying that. How much time do you need to do the right thing? That night, after they went to bed, I sat in my living room in the dark. I thought about Richard, about what he would say. He had always been the reasonable one, the one who could see through people's games. I missed him so much it physically hurt. I picked up my phone and made a call. It rang 3 times before a familiar voice answered. Janet? It is Daisy. I need your help. Can you come tomorrow? Of course. What is wrong? Everything, I whispered. When I hung up, I felt a small spark of something I had not felt in days. It was not hope exactly. It was determination. I walked to my bedroom and saw Richard's photo on my dresser. I touched the frame gently. I'm going to protect myself, I whispered to his image. Like you always told me to. The next morning, I told Tyler that Janet was coming to visit. His face twitched with concern, but he covered it quickly. Why? He asked. She is my friend. She wants to say hello. Tyler did not like that answer. I could tell. But he could not very well tell me I was not allowed to have visitors in my own home. Not yet, anyway. Tyler and Crystal left the house around 10 in the morning, saying they had a doctor's appointment for the pregnancy. I did not believe them, but I was grateful for the space to breathe. As soon as their car pulled away, I stood in my living room, truly alone in my house for the first time in days. The silence felt like a gift. I walked through the rooms, seeing how they had already claimed my space. Tyler's laptop was on the dining table, closed but present. Crystal's magazines were stacked on my coffee table. Their clothes hung in my guest room closet. I stopped at the dining table. Tyler's laptop sat there, innocent looking. I should not look. I knew that. It was an invasion of privacy, but he had invaded my entire life. I lifted the screen. It woke immediately. Tyler had not even bothered to log out. His email was open. I stared at the screen, my conscience warring with my survival instinct. Then I started reading. The first email was from Crystal, sent 2 weeks ago. The subject line read, Phase 3. Tyler, we are ready for Phase 3. Your mom is the easiest target yet. She already feels guilty about the loan thing. We can work that angle hard. Remember, we need at least 1 million to clear our debts and have enough left over to disappear for a while. This is our last big score before we go straight. Love you. My hands started shaking. I scrolled through more emails. There was one to someone named Brad. This one is easier than Amanda's family. Mom already feels like she failed me. Guilt is a powerful tool. Amanda, Tyler's first wife. He had scammed her family too. I kept reading, my horror growing with each message. There was a spreadsheet attached to one email, titled Asset Recovery Timeline. It listed me, Amanda's mother, and Crystal's parents. Next to each name was an amount of money and a date. Next to my name, target, 2 million, timeline, 6 months. Another email. This one from Crystal to Tyler. Make sure you mention the pregnancy at the right moment. Maximum emotional impact. We do not actually have to go through with it. We can always say, I miscarried from stress. They were planning to fake a miscarriage, to use a fictional baby as a weapon and then as a tragedy to manipulate me further. I pulled out my phone with trembling hands and started taking pictures of everything, every email, every document, every piece of evidence. A car door slammed outside. I froze, listening, but it was just my neighbor. Tyler and Crystal were not back yet. I kept searching. I found bank statements showing Tyler had over $80,000 in debt, credit cards maxed out, loans in collections, but also deposits, large ones. $60,000 6 months ago, $45,000 a year before that, money he had taken from other people. I was not his first victim. I was just his latest. The doorbell rang, and I nearly jumped out of my skin. I closed the laptop carefully, making sure it looked exactly as Tyler had left it, and hurried to the door. Janet stood there with her briefcase and a concerned expression. Thank God, I breathed, pulling her inside. Janet was 58, sharp-minded, and had been practicing estate law for 30 years. We had met through Margaret and became friends quickly. She had helped me write my will after Richard died. I took her to my bedroom and showed her all the photos on my phone. Her face grew darker with each image. Daisy, this is elder financial abuse. It is a serious crime. There is more, I said. I told her everything. The demands, the manipulation, the invasion of my home, the fake pregnancy. When I finished, Janet opened her briefcase and pulled out several documents. I am glad you called me, she said. I need to show you something. She spread papers across my bed. Official-looking forms with court headers. What are these? Tyler filed these yesterday. He is trying to get power of attorney over you. The room tilted. What? He is claiming you have diminished capacity, that you are elderly and vulnerable and need someone to manage your affairs. He is asking a judge to grant him control of your finances. I read through the petition, my eyes blurring with tears. It was full of lies. It claimed I forgot to eat regularly, that I left the stove on, that I got confused during conversations, that I was showing signs of dementia, all fabrications designed to make me look incompetent. He has been planning this for a while, Janet said gently. This is a coordinated attack on your finances and your independence. Can he actually get power of attorney? My voice was barely a whisper. Not if we fight it. And with the evidence you just showed me, we have a strong case. But Daisy, we need to do more than just defend. We need to go on offense. What do you mean? I mean, we call the police. We document everything. We get a restraining order. We prosecute him for attempted fraud and elder abuse. He is my son. He is a criminal who happens to share your DNA. The words hit hard because they were true. This was not a family dispute. This was a crime in progress. But, Janet said, leaning forward, I have another idea. It is riskier, but it might expose Tyler completely and protect future victims. What is it? Let him think he is winning. Set a trap. We get everything on record, witnesses present, and when he makes his move, we spring it. My heart pounded. That is dangerous. Yes. But it is also definitive. Right now, Tyler could claim this is all a misunderstanding. He could paint himself as a son trying to help his confused mother. But if we catch him in the act, with witnesses and evidence, there is no way out for him. I thought about it. The idea terrified me. But I also thought about Crystal's parents, about Amanda's family, about whoever Tyler would target next if he got away with this. What do I need to do? Janet smiled. Invite the family to dinner. Tell Tyler you have decided to sign everything over. Make it a big announcement. Then we make sure the right people are in that room when the truth comes out." The front door opened downstairs. Tyler and Crystal were home. "Sunday," I whispered to Janet. "I will do it Sunday." Janet gathered her documents quickly. We walked downstairs together, and I introduced her to Tyler and Crystal as if everything was normal. "Janet is an old friend," I explained. Tyler looked suspicious. "What were you two talking about?" "Old times," Janet said smoothly. "Daisy was telling me about her new financial situation. It is wonderful that she has security in her retirement." Tyler relaxed slightly. "Yes, it is. And she has decided to share that security with family." "Right, Mom." Everyone looked at me. Janet gave me the slightest nod. "Actually," I said, my voice steadier than I felt, "I want to make an announcement. A family announcement. I am going to invite everyone to dinner this Sunday. Aunt Susan, Cousin Rachel, Uncle George. Everyone should be here for this." Tyler's eyes lit up. "That is a great idea, Mom. Really great. I want everyone to know what I have decided," I continued. "About my estate. About my money. About you." Crystal clapped her hands together. "That is so generous, Daisy." After Janet left and Tyler and Crystal went to their room, I stood in my kitchen and made phone calls. One by one, I invited my relatives to Sunday dinner, but I also made other calls. Calls Tyler did not know about. To Amanda, whose number Margaret had found for me. To Crystal's parents, whose information was in one of Tyler's emails. And to Detective Sarah Morrison, whose card Janet had given me. "Detective Morrison, my name is Daisy Walsh. I am being financially abused by my adult son, and I need your help." The trap was set. I just had to hold my nerve for 4 more days. The days before Sunday moved like cold honey, slow and sticky. Tyler grew increasingly confident, even cocky. He made plans out loud about what he would do with our money. Crystal browsed furniture websites on my computer, showing me couches that cost $8,000. "We will need to redecorate everything," she said. "This old lady style has got to go." I smiled and nodded, playing my part. On Friday, Tyler caught me trying to write a check at the grocery store. He snatched my checkbook. "Mom, you cannot just hand these out. What if someone stole one?" "Tyler, I need that to pay for groceries. I will handle the finances now. Just tell me what you need." He had not even waited for Sunday. He was already trying to control my money. That night, I heard him and Crystal arguing in their room. Crystal's voice carried through the walls. "You said this would be quick. We have been here almost 2 weeks. It is happening Sunday. Just be patient. Your mother better not back out." "She will not. I know how to handle her." I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, and thought about all the years I had loved this person. Where had I gone wrong? Or had Tyler always been this way, and I had just refused to see it? Sunday morning arrived bright and cold. November in Ohio always had that quality. Autumn clinging to its last threads before winter took over. I woke early and started cooking. Pot roast in the slow cooker, mashed potatoes, green beans with bacon, homemade rolls, apple pie cooling on the counter, the house filled with the smells of comfort food, of family gatherings from better times. Aunt Susan arrived first. She was my late husband's sister, 71 years old with steel gray hair and sharp eyes. She hugged me at the door. "Tyler called me last week," she said quietly. "He told me you were being difficult about money." "Did he?" I did not believe him. "You have never been difficult about anything." I squeezed her hand, grateful. Cousin Rachel came next with her husband Tom. Rachel was 45, worked as a school principal, and had always been sensible. Uncle George, Richard's brother, pulled up in his truck at noon exactly. The dining room table was set for 11 people. Tyler kept counting chairs, looking confused. "Who else is coming?" he asked. "Just family," I said vaguely. At 12:30, Tyler went to his room and came back wearing a suit. I had not seen him in a suit since his first wedding. He had also brought a stranger. a thin man in his 50s carrying a briefcase. "Mom, this is Mr. Patterson. He is a notary. I thought since we are making everything official today, we should do it right." Crystal appeared wearing a flowing dress, her hand resting on her still flat stomach. She had been playing up the pregnancy all week, talking about morning sickness and cravings. Everyone sat down for dinner. Tyler kept checking his watch. Mr. Patterson sat uncomfortably in the corner, his briefcase on his lap. We were in the middle of passing the pot roast when the doorbell rang. Tyler's head snapped up. "Who is that?" "I will get it," I said calmly. I opened the door to 3 people. Amanda stood there, looking professional in slacks and a blazer. Behind her were 2 people in their 60s, both looking stern and sad. "Thank you for coming," I said. Tyler appeared in the hallway. His face went white. "Amanda? What are you doing here?" "Hello, Tyler." Behind Amanda, the older couple stepped forward. "You must be Daisy," the man said. "I am Howard, and this is my wife Linda. We are Crystal's parents." Crystal's scream came from the dining room. She tried to run for the back door, but Uncle George stepped in front of it. He was a large man, a retired construction worker, and no one was getting past him. "Everyone sit down," I said, my voice stronger than I had ever heard it. The doorbell rang again. This time, Detective Sarah Morrison stepped inside, her badge visible on her belt. Tyler sank into his chair, his face gray. I stood at the head of the table, looking at all the faces gathered there. My family who had believed Tyler's lies, the man pretending to be a notary, my son and his wife, caught in their own trap. "I invited you all here for a reason," I began. "Tyler told you he wanted to announce my generosity, that I was going to share my wealth with family. But the truth is, Tyler has been running a con, and I am not the first victim." "Mom, what are you talking about?" Tyler tried to sound confused, but his voice shook. "Amanda, would you like to start?" Amanda stood, her hands clasped in front of her. 4 years ago, Tyler and I were married. He came to me saying he needed money for a business investment. I did not have money, but my mother did. He convinced me to ask her for $60,000. Aunt Susan gasped. "My mother gave it to him because she loved me and wanted us to be happy." 3 months later, Tyler left me. The money was gone. The business never existed. When I tried to get it back, he told me I was crazy, that I had misunderstood everything. Amanda's voice cracked. "My mother died last year, still in debt from helping us. I tried to warn you, Daisy, but Tyler had already cut you off." Howard stood next, his face red with anger. "Tyler married our daughter 8 months ago. Within 3 months, he had talked us into giving him $85,000 for a business opportunity. The money vanished. When we asked about it, he said it was an investment and these things take time." Linda was crying. "We gave him our retirement savings. We thought we were helping our daughter's future." Crystal jumped up. "You were not supporting us properly. We gave you everything," Howard roared. "And you stole from us." Detective Morrison stepped forward. "Mr. Walsh, I am Detective Sarah Morrison. I have been investigating you for elder financial abuse, thanks to Mrs. Walsh's cooperation. We have documented evidence of your schemes, including emails detailing your plans to defraud your mother, falsified documents, and attempted identity theft." She pulled out a folder. "You tried to file for power of attorney over your mother by claiming she has diminished capacity. Every claim in that filing is false. You also opened credit cards in your mother's name without her permission." Tyler shot to his feet. "This is my mother's money. I deserve it. She was never there for me. She owes me this." The mask had fallen away. The real Tyler stood there, entitled and vicious. "She was supposed to sacrifice for me," he yelled. "That is what mothers do." But she was selfish, always working, never giving me what I needed. Aunt Susan stood up. "Richard and Daisy sacrificed everything for you. I watched them work themselves to exhaustion to give you opportunities. It was not enough." Tyler's face was twisted with rage. "It is never enough. She had money and kept it from me. I am her son. That money should be mine. Crystal grabbed her purse. You people are crazy. We did not do anything wrong. Detective Morrison blocked her path. Mrs. Walsh, we have evidence that you participated in planning and executing this fraud, including discussions about faking a pregnancy to manipulate Mrs. Walsh. The room went silent. You are not pregnant, I whispered. Crystal's face flushed. It was just to make you care about family. There is no baby. Aunt Susan looked horrified. Detective Morrison continued. Medical records obtained through our investigation show Crystal had a negative pregnancy test at a clinic 2 weeks ago. The entire pregnancy was fabricated. Tyler pointed at me. You set me up. You tricked me. No, I said quietly. I protected myself. Something I should have done a long time ago. Janet appeared from the kitchen, where she had been waiting with a court recorder. Everything said here today has been documented. Mr. Walsh, Mrs. Walsh, you have the right to remain silent. Tyler launched himself toward me, but Uncle George and Tom caught him. You will regret this, he screamed. You are supposed to be my mother. I was your mother, I said, tears streaming down my face. But you chose to be my predator. Detective Morrison pulled out handcuffs. Tyler Walsh, Crystal Walsh, you are under arrest for attempted elder financial abuse, fraud, and identity theft. As they read Tyler his rights, he stared at me with pure hatred. I hope you are happy with your money, he spat. I hope it keeps you warm at night. The only thing keeping me warm at night, I said, is knowing I finally stopped you from hurting anyone else. They led Tyler and Crystal out in handcuffs. Mr. Patterson, the fake notary, turned out to be Tyler's friend from college. He was questioned and released but looked terrified. After they left, the dining room was silent except for Linda's quiet crying. Aunt Susan hugged me. I am so sorry, Daisy. I should have known better than to believe him without talking to you first. He was always a good liar, I said. We sat back down at the table. The pot roast had gone cold, but we ate anyway. Amanda, Howard, and Linda stayed. We shared stories of Tyler's deceptions. And slowly, the pieces came together. Tyler had been doing this for years, targeting anyone he thought vulnerable. How did you figure it out? Amanda asked. He left his laptop open, I said, and I found the courage to look. Howard shook his head. We should have known. There were signs. We all wanted to believe in him. I said, that is not a failure. That is love. But I knew now that love without boundaries is not love at all. It is just fuel for people like Tyler to burn. The days after Tyler's arrest moved in a strange blur. Detective Morrison called regularly with updates. Tyler and Crystal had been charged with multiple counts of fraud and elder abuse. Crystal's parents and Amanda were both cooperating with the prosecution. My house felt enormous and quiet without Tyler and Crystal's invasive presence. I walked through rooms that now belonged to me again. But something felt different. The space felt sad, haunted by what had happened here. Margaret came every day, bringing groceries and comfort. You did the right thing, she said over and over. But at night, I lay awake wondering, where had it started? When had Tyler become this person? Was there a moment I missed, a sign I should have seen? Aunt Susan visited on a Tuesday, bringing my favorite chamomile tea. We sat in my kitchen, and she said, Stop torturing yourself. I watched you raise that boy. You were a wonderful mother. Then why did he turn out this way? Some people are just broken inside, Daisy. It is not your fault. But it felt like my fault. Mothers are supposed to shape their children, right? Somewhere along the way, I must have failed. Cousin Rachel came by that weekend. We were sorting through photo albums, looking at pictures of Tyler as a child. He looked so innocent in those photos. So sweet. Do you remember the time Tyler stole my birthday money? Rachel asked quietly. I looked up. What? I was 8. He was 10. My grandmother gave me $20 for my birthday. Tyler took it from my dresser and used it to buy candy. When I told my mom, she did not believe me. Tyler cried and said I was lying. I never knew that. There were other things too. Small things. He was good at making people doubt themselves. These stories kept emerging. Uncle George told me about tools that went missing from his garage when Tyler was a teenager. A teacher called to tell me she remembered Tyler manipulating classmates, creating drama, and then positioning himself as the peacemaker. Tyler's problems had not started with me saying no to a loan. They had been there all along, and I had been too close to see them clearly. Janet handled all the legal aspects. Tyler was awaiting trial, unable to make bail because the judge considered him a flight risk. Crystal had taken a plea deal, agreeing to testify against Tyler in exchange for probation. I was cleaning out the guest room they had used, washing sheets and trying to erase their presence from my home, when I found something strange. A baseboard in the closet was loose. I wiggled it, and it came away in my hand. Behind it was a small metal box. My heart pounded as I pulled it out. It was not locked. Inside was a single envelope, yellowed with age, addressed in handwriting I would know anywhere. Richard's handwriting. The envelope was addressed, "To my Daisy. Open when you need strength." My hands shook as I opened it. The letter inside was dated November 15th, 12 years ago. 2 weeks before Richard died. "My dearest Daisy," it began. "If you are reading this, I am gone, and you are struggling with something. I hope this finds you when you need it most. I am writing this in the hospital. The nurses think I am sleeping, but I cannot sleep knowing what I need to tell you. Our son has a darkness in him that I have tried to ignore for too long. Last week when you went home to shower, Tyler visited. I was grateful to see him until I realized why he came. He stole $300 from my wallet. I know because I counted my cash that morning, making sure I had enough for you to buy groceries. Tyler thought I was too drugged to notice, but I was not. I was just too heartbroken to confront him. My own son stole from me while I was dying. I did not tell you because you have carried enough pain. But I need you to know this, Daisy. Tyler is not going to get better. When I am gone, he will come for more, and you must be strong enough to say no. You have spent our marriage giving everything to our son. You worked extra shifts for his braces, his sports equipment, his college. You sacrificed your own dreams so he could pursue his, but Tyler takes without gratitude, and he will keep taking until there is nothing left. When he comes asking for more, and he will, please protect yourself. You are not responsible for the man he has chosen to become. You loved him enough. You gave him enough. His choices are his own. Protect yourself, my love. You deserve peace in your final years. Do not let guilt make you vulnerable to his manipulation. You were always the strong one, even when you did not realize it. Trust yourself. Trust your instincts. You know what is right. I will love you forever. Take care of yourself. Your Richard. I read the letter 3 times, tears streaming down my face. Richard had known. He had seen the truth about Tyler and tried to protect me, even from beyond the grave. Tyler had stolen from his dying father. That knowledge settled into my chest, heavy and final. This was not a man who had taken a wrong path. This was someone who had chosen cruelty again and again. I called Margaret. "Come over," I said. "I need to show you something." When she arrived, I handed her the letter. She read it silently, her face growing sad. "Richard knew," she said finally. "He tried to warn me. Daisy, listen to me. You did not fail Tyler. Tyler failed himself. Richard saw it. You did everything right. You loved him. You provided for him. You gave him opportunities. At some point, a person's choices become their own." I thought about the years I had blamed myself for Tyler's anger, the guilt I carried over that loan, the wondering if I had been too hard, too soft, not present enough. All of it was wasted energy. Tyler had been making his choices long before that loan. I was just the latest person he tried to exploit. "I am not going to agree to any plea deal," I told Margaret. "I want him to face full consequences." 3 days later, Tyler's attorney called. Tyler wanted to negotiate. He would admit to some charges if I agreed to drop others. I spoke to Detective Morrison and the prosecutor. They explained that Tyler's message was clear. He would pay minimal restitution if I showed leniency. "What does he want from me?" I asked. The prosecutor said gently, "Mrs. Walsh, he sent a message through his attorney. He said to tell you he is sorry." "Did he cry when he said it?" The prosecutor blinked. "Excuse me. When he told his attorney to tell me he is sorry, did he show any emotion? Any remorse?" "According to his attorney, no. He was very businesslike about it." "Then tell him I decline. Let the trial proceed." The prosecutor smiled slightly. "Yes, ma'am." That evening, I sat on my couch with Richard's letter in my hands. I had it framed the next day and placed it on my bedroom dresser. Every morning when I woke up, I read one line: "Protect yourself, my love." And every morning, I whispered back, "I finally am." 6 months passed before the trial began. The justice system moves slowly, Janet explained, but thoroughly. In that time, I started to rebuild my life. I joined a support group for parents estranged from adult children and learned I was far from alone. There were mothers and fathers who had been stolen from, manipulated, and abandoned by the children they had loved and raised. We shared our stories in a church basement every Thursday evening. A woman named Brenda told us her daughter had forged her signature on loan documents. A man named Frank described how his son had convinced him to sign over his house, then evicted him. "The hardest part is not the money," Brenda said one night. "It is losing the child you thought you had." We all nodded. We understood. The trial was set for late May. Spring had arrived in Ohio, bringing green leaves and warm sunshine that felt inappropriate for what was about to happen. Janet prepared me for weeks. "He is going to try to make you look like a bad mother," she warned. "Are you ready for that?" "I have been ready my whole life," I said. The courthouse was a large brick building in downtown Columbus. News vans parked outside because elder abuse cases had become a hot topic in Ohio. Detective Morrison had told me this trial would set precedents. I arrived with Margaret and Janet. Aunt Susan, Uncle George, and Cousin Rachel sat in the gallery behind me. Amanda was there, sitting with Howard and Linda. We had all become strange allies, bonded by our shared experience of Tyler's manipulation. Tyler was brought in wearing a gray suit. He had lost weight in jail, and his face looked harder. He did not look at me. Crystal sat in the witness section, having taken her plea deal. She looked small and scared. The prosecution presented their case methodically. Detective Morrison testified about the investigation, the evidence from Tyler's laptop, the pattern of targeting elderly family members. Amanda took the stand and described her family's loss. Her voice shook when she talked about her mother dying still in debt. Howard testified about the retirement savings Tyler had stolen. Linda cried on the stand. Then Crystal testified. She described how Tyler had researched elder abuse tactics online, how he had coached her on what to say and do. She admitted the pregnancy had been fake. He said old people want to believe in family, Crystal testified. He said guilt was the best tool. The prosecution introduced documents. The fraudulent power of attorney petition. Credit cards opened in my name. Forged signature practice sheets. Emails discussing the plan. The evidence was overwhelming. Then it was time for the defense. Tyler's attorney tried to paint him as a desperate son who had made mistakes. He suggested Tyler had reached out to me to reconnect, not to steal. Then Tyler took the stand. He looked at the jury with sad eyes and began his story. "I grew up poor," he said. "My mother worked all the time. We barely had enough to eat." That was a lie. We had been middle class. I worked a lot, but Tyler never went hungry. She was emotionally absent. Tyler continued. Cold, distant. I needed a mother, but I had a woman who only cared about work. Another lie. I had attended every school event, read to him every night until he was too old to want it, celebrated every achievement. Then Tyler dropped his bomb. "She hit me as a child," he said, his voice breaking. "I was afraid of her." The courtroom went silent. Several people gasped. I felt like I had been punched. She would slap me for small mistakes. If I spilled milk or got a bad grade, she would hit me, sometimes with her hand, sometimes with a belt. I had never, not once, hit my child, not even a spanking. Richard and I had believed in timeouts and conversations, not physical punishment. Everything I did, Tyler said, tears streaming down his face, was because I am damaged from my childhood. I am broken because of how she treated me. I sat frozen, watching my son lie to save himself. He was making me a monster to hide his own monstrosity. The prosecution had warned me this might happen, but nothing prepared me for hearing those lies spoken in a courtroom. Then the prosecutor stood for cross-examination. She smiled at me gently, then turned to Tyler. Mr. Walsh, you claim your mother was abusive and neglectful. Is that correct? Yes. Then you might be interested to know that your mother kept journals, very detailed journals. She documented your entire childhood. Tyler's face went pale. The prosecutor introduced 40 years of journals, page after page of my handwriting, documenting Tyler's life. His first steps, his first day of school, his soccer games, his birthday parties. This entry is from May 3rd, 1993, the prosecutor read. Tyler got an A on his science project. We celebrated with ice cream. He was so proud. I am so proud of him. She flipped to another page. September 10th, 1995. Tyler got in trouble at school for lying about his homework. I am worried about this pattern. We had a long talk. He cried and promised to do better. I am trying so hard to help him make good choices. Page after page of love, worry, sacrifice. Documentation of a devoted mother, but also documentation of Tyler's issues from a young age. March 20th, 2001. Tyler's teacher called. She said Tyler has been stealing lunch money from other students and blaming them for losing it. When I confronted him, he said I was taking the other kid's side because I hate him. I do not know how to reach him. The journals painted a clear picture. A loving, concerned mother and a manipulative, troubled child. These journals contain no mention of any physical abuse, the prosecutor said. In fact, when Tyler was 8, there is an entry about him falling and getting a bruise. You took him to the doctor to make sure he was not seriously hurt. The doctor's records confirm this visit. If you were abusing your son, would you take him to a doctor to be examined? Tyler had no answer. Then the prosecution called a surprise witness. Mrs. Patricia Henderson, Tyler's third-grade teacher. She was 83 now, her hair completely white, but her mind was sharp. I taught for 35 years, she said from the witness stand. Tyler Walsh is one of only a handful of students I remember clearly, even after all this time. Why is that? The prosecutor asked. Because he was the most manipulative child I ever encountered. He lied constantly. He stole from other children. He would frame classmates for things he did. And when caught, he would cry and claim everyone was against him. She turned to look at me. His mother came to every parent-teacher conference. She came with his father. They were good people, trying to understand their difficult child. Mrs. Walsh would cry in these meetings, asking what she could do to help him. I told her some children are born with something broken inside. It is not always the parent's fault. Tyler exploded. He jumped up, shouting at the prosecutor. She had money. She should have given it to me. I am her son. That money should be mine. His attorney tried to quiet him, but Tyler was past controlling himself. I deserved that money. I should have gotten it years ago. She kept it from me out of spite. The judge banged his gavel. Mr. Walsh, sit down and control yourself. But Tyler turned to me, his face twisted with rage. This is your fault. You made me this way. You owe me. Security officers approached him. Tyler was yelling now, all pretense gone. I am entitled to your money. I am your son. You have to give it to me. His attorney was trying to pull him back into his chair. The jury stared, some with open mouths. You should have just signed the papers, Tyler screamed. You ruined everything. The judge ordered him removed from the courtroom. As security led him out, Tyler kept yelling, You will die alone! You will have no one! I hope your money keeps you warm at night. The doors closed behind him, and the courtroom sat in stunned silence. The prosecutor looked at the jury. Ladies and gentlemen, You just witnessed the real Tyler Walsh, not the victim he pretended to be, but the entitled predator he truly is. I watched the jury's faces. One older woman, probably in her 70s, looked at me with tears in her eyes. She nodded slightly, a gesture of understanding and support. The defense had no response. Tyler had destroyed his own case. The jury deliberated for only 2 hours. When they returned, the forewoman stood. She was a middle-aged woman with kind eyes. "On all counts," she said clearly, "we find the defendant guilty." I closed my eyes and felt Margaret take my hand. Justice. Finally, justice. The sentencing hearing was held 2 weeks later. Tyler was brought in wearing an orange jumpsuit, his hands cuffed. He looked at me with pure hatred. The judge reviewed the case thoroughly. She was a woman in her 60s, with gray hair pulled back in a bun and sharp, intelligent eyes. "Mr. Walsh," she began, "elder abuse is one of the most despicable crimes I encounter in my courtroom. It represents a betrayal of the most fundamental human bond. You did not prey on a stranger. You preyed upon the woman who gave you life, who raised you, who loved you. You weaponized that love for profit." She sentenced him to 6 years in state prison, followed by probation. He was ordered to pay full restitution to me, to Crystal's parents, and to Amanda's family. A permanent restraining order prohibited him from ever contacting me again. Crystal, who had taken her plea deal, received 3 years of probation and 500 hours of community service. She was also ordered to pay partial restitution. As Tyler was let out, he turned to look at me one last time. "I hope you are happy," he said. "I am not happy," I replied quietly. "But I am finally free." The local news covered the sentencing. Elder advocacy groups across Ohio used the case to raise awareness about financial abuse. I received letters from strangers, other people who had experienced similar situations with their adult children. One letter came from a woman in Cincinnati. "Thank you for being brave enough to prosecute," she wrote. "Your story helped me recognize what my daughter was doing to me. I have filed charges. Your courage gave me courage." That letter made me cry, but they were good tears. I sold my house 2 months after the trial. There were too many memories, too much pain attached to those walls. I bought a small cottage near a lake, something I had always dreamed of but never thought I could afford. Margaret helped me decorate. We chose bright colors, cheerful curtains, comfortable furniture. It was not fancy, but it was mine, truly mine and peaceful. I joined the support group permanently. Every Thursday evening, I sat in that church basement with other parents who had lost their children to greed, addiction, or mental illness. We shared our pain and our healing. 3 months after the trial, I fulfilled the dream I had been working toward for years. I donated $500,000 to cancer research in Richard's name. The research center held a dedication ceremony and named a wing after him, the Richard Walsh Memorial Research Laboratory. I stood in that bright, modern building, surrounded by scientists working to cure the disease that took my husband. And I felt Richard's presence. He would have been so proud. Aunt Susan became a regular visitor at my cottage. We had tea every Wednesday afternoon, sitting on my porch and watching the lake. Cousin Rachel and I started a tradition of weekly dinners, rotating who cooked. Uncle George came by to help with repairs and maintenance, becoming a protective grandfather figure I had not realized I needed. My family, the one that mattered, had rallied around me. Amanda reached out 4 months after the trial. She called nervously, apologizing for not warning me sooner about Tyler. "I was ashamed," she admitted. "I felt like a fool for falling for his lies." We met for coffee at a small shop near the lake. 2 women who had loved and lost the same man, seeing him clearly for the first time. "We both mourned who we thought he was," I said. "But we loved as best we could," Amanda replied. We became unlikely friends, supporting each other through the complicated grief of losing someone who was still alive but dead to us. I started writing about my experience, not for publication initially, just for myself, but Margaret suggested I start a blog to help others. I called it Dear Mothers, When Love Is Not Enough. I wrote about boundaries, about the difference between love and enabling, about recognizing manipulation. The blog gained readers quickly. Other parents shared their stories in the comments. We built a community of people learning to protect themselves without drowning in guilt. 1 year after the trial, Tyler sent me a letter from prison. My hands shook as I opened it, hoping maybe, finally, it would contain real remorse. It was a demand for money for his prison commissary account. Not an apology, not acknowledgement of harm, just another demand. I did not respond. I placed the letter in a file with all the other evidence of who Tyler truly was. Then I went back to living my life. I finally understood something Richard had tried to tell me in his letter. I was not responsible for the man Tyler had chosen to become. I had loved him enough. I had given him enough. His choices were his own. 2 years after the trial, on a bright June morning, Margaret and I loaded her car for a road trip. We were driving to the Grand Canyon, something I had wanted to see since I was a little girl but never had the time or money for. As we drove through Ohio, then Indiana, then across the vast plains of the Midwest, I felt lighter than I had in decades. The weight I had carried, the guilt and shame and worry, had finally lifted. We stopped for lunch at a small diner in Kansas. While we were eating pie, I noticed an elderly woman at the next table crying quietly into her phone. "Please, son, I cannot give you any more money. I do not have it." The woman's pain was etched on her face. After she hung up, I approached her table gently. "Excuse me," I said. "I do not mean to intrude, but I overheard. May I share something with you?" The woman looked up, tears streaming. "Do you have adult children?" "I did," I said, past tense. I sat down and told her my story briefly. As I spoke, her expression changed from despair to recognition to something like hope. "I thought I was the only one," she whispered. "I thought I was a terrible mother." "You are not alone," I said. "And you are not a bad mother. Protecting yourself does not make you bad. It makes you wise." I gave her the website for the support group and my blog information. Margaret and I left her with the check paid and a reminder that love sometimes means saying no. As we continued driving toward the canyon, I thought about all the years I had spent believing that being a good mother meant sacrificing everything, even my own well-being. I had thought love required me to say yes to every demand, to enable every choice, to accept any treatment. Richard's letter had taught me the truth I was too close to see. Love sometimes means saying no. Boundaries are not walls, they are bridges to peace. Protecting yourself is not selfish, it is survival. "Do you think about him?" Margaret asked as we drove through the desert, mountains rising in the distance. "Every day," I admitted. "But now I think about the boy he was, not the man he became. I mourn the relationship we never had and probably never could have had. Do you regret pressing charges?" "Never. Not for 1 second. I regret that it had to happen. But I do not regret protecting myself and stopping him from hurting others." The Grand Canyon appeared before us as the sun began to set. We pulled into the overlook, got out of the car, and stood at the edge of something vast and ancient and beautiful. The canyon stretched before us, layers of red and orange and gold carved by millions of years of water and wind. It was so much bigger than my small life, my small pain. I thought about everything that had brought me to this moment. Richard's death, Tyler's betrayal, the trial, the healing, the journey from victim to survivor to advocate. "I should have done this a long time ago," I said. Margaret smiled. "You did it when you were ready." "Not just the road trip," I said. "All of it. Setting boundaries, protecting myself, refusing to be anyone's victim." "But you did do it, Daisy. That is what matters." I stood at the edge of the Grand Canyon and felt something I had not felt in years. Peace. Real, deep, soul-settling peace. I pulled out my phone and took a photo. Not of the canyon, but of Margaret and me, smiling, free, alive. I posted it to my blog with a caption. "They say blood is thicker than water, but the full saying is, the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb." It means the family you choose matters more than the family you are born into. Today I am with my chosen family, living the life I almost gave away. That night, in a hotel room overlooking the canyon, I wrote in my journal, It was something I had started doing again, following my mother's example of documenting my life. I learned something important. I wrote, "Being someone's mother does not mean being their victim." Tyler taught me that love without boundaries is not love at all. It is just fuel for destructive people to burn. Richard's letter gave me permission to live, and I finally learned. You can love someone from a distance. You can wish them well without welcoming them home. Setting boundaries does not make you cruel. It makes you wise. And sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is save yourself. I closed the journal and looked out at the canyon, dark now except for a million stars overhead. I did not just protect my savings that day. I whispered to the night. I protected my soul, and that, I have learned, is priceless. The next morning, Margaret and I hiked down into the canyon, taking the path slowly, carefully. The deeper we went, the more layers of ancient rock revealed themselves. Each layer told a story of time, pressure, transformation. Like my own story, I realized. Each layer of pain had revealed something underneath. Each challenge had carved away something false, leaving something true. At the bottom of the canyon, we sat by a stream that had carved this magnificent place over millions of years. Small, persistent, patient. That stream did not force the rock to move. It just kept flowing, kept being itself, and the rock eventually had to yield. That was what boundaries were, I realized. Not force, but persistence. Not cruelty, but self-preservation. Just keep flowing in your own truth, and eventually, even the hardest obstacles have to move around you. We climbed back up as the sun set, painting the canyon walls gold and red and purple. At the top, breathing hard but feeling alive, I looked back at where we had been. "Thank you for coming with me," I told Margaret. "Thank you for asking me. Thank you for surviving. Thank you for becoming the woman who could take this trip." That night, I called Aunt Susan from the hotel. "We made it to the Grand Canyon. How is it?" "Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Your uncle and I are so proud of you, Daisy. For everything." After we hung up, I thought about pride. For so many years, I thought being a good mother meant never feeling proud of yourself, only proud of your children. But I had learned I could be proud of myself. Proud for surviving, proud for setting boundaries, proud for building a life worth living. The road trip continued for 2 more weeks. We saw the painted desert, the petrified forest, and the red rocks of Sedona. We ate in small diners and stayed in quirky motels. We laughed and cried and talked about everything and nothing. When we finally drove back into Ohio, back to my little cottage by the lake, I felt different. Not healed completely, grief and loss do not work that way. But transformed, stronger, wiser, free. I have been living in my cottage now for 3 years. Tyler is still in prison. We have had no contact, and I do not expect we ever will. I am at peace with that. My blog has grown. I receive messages every day from people facing similar situations. Some are dealing with adult children, others with parents, siblings, or spouses. But they all share the same question. Is it wrong to protect myself? And I always give them the same answer Richard gave me. No, protecting yourself is not wrong. It is necessary. It is brave. It is an act of love. Love for yourself, love for your future, and sometimes, love for the person you are setting boundaries with, even if they cannot see it that way. Last week, a young mother wrote to me. Her 25-year-old son was demanding she refinance her house to give him money. She felt guilty for even considering saying no. I wrote back, "You can love your son and still say no. You can want good things for him and still protect yourself. Your love is not measured by how much you give him. It is measured by how honestly you see him, how clearly you see yourself, and how bravely you choose what is right." She wrote back 2 days later. I said no. He is angry. But I am at peace. Thank you for showing me that was possible. These messages remind me why I pressed charges, why I went through the trial, why I shared my story. Not for revenge, but for protection. Not just for me, but for everyone Tyler might have hurt next, and for everyone who reads my story and finds the courage to protect themselves. I am 72 years old now. My hair is silver, my face has earned its wrinkles, and my body moves a little slower each year. But my spirit is lighter than it has ever been. I spend my mornings on my porch with coffee, watching the sunrise over the lake. I spend my afternoons writing, gardening, and visiting with friends. I spend my evenings reading, sometimes calling other members of my support group, offering encouragement. It is a simple life, a peaceful life, a life I almost gave away to someone who saw me only as a resource to exploit. Sometimes people ask me if I regret losing my son. The question used to hurt, but now I have an answer. I did not lose my son. I say, I never really had him, not the way I thought I did. What I lost was an illusion. What I gained was myself. And that is the final lesson. The one I want to leave with anyone reading this story. You cannot change people who do not want to change. You cannot love someone into being who you need them to be, but you can change yourself. You can learn to set boundaries. You can learn to recognize manipulation. You can learn that protecting yourself is not cruelty. It is courage. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to participate in someone's destruction of you and themselves. Sometimes walking away is not giving up. It is growing up. Sometimes saying no is the truest expression of love you have left to give. I did not save my son. He did not want to be saved. But I saved myself. And in doing so, I have helped others save themselves. That is enough. That has to be enough. And finally, after all these years, it is enough. I stand on my porch this evening, watching the sun set over the lake, turning the water gold and pink and purple. Margaret is coming for dinner. Aunt Susan is bringing dessert. Cousin Rachel might stop by after her shift at the school. My chosen family, my real family, the people who show up with love instead of demands, with support instead of manipulation. This is the life I built after I stopped letting guilt control me. This is the peace I found when I finally listened to Richard's letter and protected myself. And if you are reading this, wondering if you should set boundaries with someone who hurts you, let me tell you what I have learned. Yes, set the boundaries. Protect yourself. Do not wait for them to change. Do not sacrifice yourself hoping they will see your value. Do not give away your peace, your security, your soul trying to fix someone who does not want to be fixed. Love yourself enough to say no. Love yourself enough to walk away. Love yourself enough to build a life worth living, even if it means doing it without the people you wish could be part of it. I did what I should have done a long time ago. Not just standing up to Tyler, but standing up for myself. And it changed everything. Now, as I watch the last light fade from the sky, I feel something I never thought I would feel again. Gratitude, not for Tyler or what he did, but for what I learned, for the strength I found, for the life I built from the ashes of betrayal. I survived. I healed. I helped others. And I am finally, completely, at peace. That is my story. That is my truth. And I hope, if you need to hear it, it gives you permission to protect yourself too. Because you deserve peace. You deserve security. You deserve a life free from manipulation and guilt. You deserve to say no and mean it. You deserve to save yourself. And it is never, ever too late to start. Now I want to ask you something. Have you ever had to set a difficult boundary with someone you love? How did you find the courage? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. If this story resonated with you, please hit the like button. It helps others who need this message find it, and subscribe to hear more stories about finding strength in difficult times. Do not forget to share this with anyone who might need to hear that protecting themselves is not selfish, it is survival. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being part of this community of people learning to love themselves enough to set boundaries. May you find the courage to protect yourself and the peace that comes from knowing your worth. Until next time, remember, You are not alone. You are not bad for setting boundaries. And you deserve a life of peace. Take care of yourself. You are worth it.